Hello, hello, everybody. What's up, everybody? I know y'all off work today, so join me. What's good, Mo? This is Reset During the Recession. We're going to be talking about how to find your dream job in a competitive market. I want to help some people land some roles. I know there's been a lot of layoffs. There are a lot of people that are unemployed, underemployed, and I am here to give you all some tips, some strategy, some of my little secrets that I use as I job hunt, as well as those that I share with other people. Hey, Leanna, Happy New Year! I'm super excited. So make sure you tell a friend to join me over here on Instagram Live. I'm going to give the people a little bit of a time. I'm like, y'all know how I go. I keeps it moving, okay? Because whoever's supposed to be here, will be here. And it'll also be saved so you can share it with someone that was not able to join us. So I do want to be mindful of time. Hopefully you all have brought in the new year exceptionally well, doing something that you enjoy, love, or got to rest and chill. And hopefully you had some people around you that love you and love on you. 2023 is an exciting year for a lot of people. So super excited about this opportunity. I want to make sure that you all leave fed and full of some information that you can take with you that is very practical for you to immediately go and do something with it. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. So like I said, please share. Let somebody know that you're here with me. Let somebody know that even if you have to jump off, say, listen, I think you need to be here. This is something you need to hear. Feel free to share with them later. But we are talking about resetting in the recession. What's up, Mario? We're talking about resetting in the recession. How do you land your dream job in a competitive market? I'm not sure if you all know about some of the data, but 2.12 million people were recorded in business and professional service to have been laid off in 2022. And unfortunately, many of us, if we were not impacted, we know someone that has been impacted. And it's a hard number to hear. I think in Q4 alone, it was over 200,000 people were laid off. And so this has been a huge deal, right? So those of us that graduated in or around the first recession that we've, in our lifetime, I should say, in 2008 to 2010, we know the challenges we had with landing a role, finding a role. A lot of companies, had to make this decision that they were no longer looking for entry-level employees and really wanted some more senior talent that could hit the ground running, so they didn't have to spend money training. All these different decisions had to be factors. And so what I want you all to take from me today is we're going to be talking about resumes. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn. And then I want to leave you all with some interview tips that I think, or interview questions and things like that can help you, as well as do some Q&A for anybody that has any questions. So to start, when you think about your resume, one thing, what's up, Ave? One thing that you all want to be mindful of when you have a resume is make sure that the very top, right? And we start at the very top. I'm going to go from the top down, or whatever the formatting is. It's all good. And if you have questions, put them in the Q&A for me so I don't miss anything. Top of your resume, please remove your address immediately. Delete your address. That is a security issue. Take your address off now. Okay? Take your address off now. If it is important for you, depending on the types of roles that you are pursuing, to have at least your location, put a city and state, or put Atlanta Metro, or put DC Metro area. Remove your address. That's the first thing. Also know that the formal objectives that were previously at the top of resumes are no more. What you should use that space to do is really talk about some of your core competencies. Think of it as your candidate snapshot. What's up, Camille? Think about it as that is the first opportunity you have to sell yourself. Okay. So if you're just joining us, we are talking reset during the recession, how to find your dream job in a competitive market. For those, again, that just got on here, I'm not sure if you know, but over 2 million people were laid off in 2022. And so I wanted to do this live today to really help people get jump started going into 2023, finding a new role. There's also a lot of people who maybe they've been employed, but they've been miserable. They've been underemployed, right? They may have just been unemployed and have made the executive decision for their mental health to step away from a job that made them unhappy. I'm speaking to you too. This is for you too. So listen, resumes. Take off your address off of the top of your resume immediately. That's the first thing. If you do nothing else, do that for security reasons, okay? Just add the city and state if you want to put anything. Or if you say, or something else you should put at the top of your resume, which I find very interesting, and it wasn't until a good friend of mine mentioned some of the issues she was having, or challenges, I should say. If you feel like you have been discriminated against based off of your name, meaning you feel like I haven't been given the opportunity and I think that my name has a lot to do with it, I would encourage you also to put U.S. citizen at the top of the resume. What's up, bro? At the top of your resume, put U.S. citizen if you feel like you have a name that people refuse to learn and refuse to pronounce correctly, and you feel like you're being discriminated against. What's up, Arnisha? I was just thinking of you. At the top of your resume, put U.S. citizen, so that will eliminate some bias. Unfortunately, we can't eliminate all of it for other people, but add U.S. citizen at the top of your resume if you feel like your name is one in which people kind of look at and then assume that you are not a U.S. citizen and don't want to consider you because they don't want to sponsor you. It's a lot that goes into when somebody's looking at a resume for 30 seconds. Okay, so take your address off for security reasons, add U.S. citizen. Okay, then we'll talk about the objective. There's no objective. Use that space to sell yourself quickly. Tell me who you are very briefly, because as a person that's looking at resumes all day, I'm starting from top to bottom and I know what I'm looking for, right? If I'm looking for a particular role, if I'm looking for various roles and just keeping my eyes open, I may look a little longer. But most people have roles in mind, and when they look at your resume, they're looking for what they're looking for, okay? And we're gonna we're gonna get into the nitty gritty. So then when you think about the information that's there for whatever roles you have listed, you have your core competencies mixed in when you do your candidate snapshot, which replaces the objective. You may decide that you want to have your education at the top. As a tip, I usually don't put education near the top of the resume unless it's relevant, unless it is a bachelor's of above, and then like other certifications and things like that are relevant to the roles in which you're applying for. If you feel like I only have maybe a high school diploma or an associate's that's not relevant to the roles, I would put that at the very end of your resume at the bottom, right? So keep in mind, resume, recruiters or hiring managers, someone that's reviewing a resume, they are trying to look at a lot of resumes very quickly. So education, you can determine where it should be best suited, but I would recommend if it's not relevant to the roles, if your education is not applicable, put it at the bottom of the resume. It will still be there. Then you also may want to consider where you will put, and again, the formatting can be changed depending on what type of resume for what types of roles. So I don't want you to get stuck there. I just want you to pay attention to the information, okay? Take the meat, spit out the bones. And so from a resume perspective, okay, all right. So then you want to think about the tools, technology, software skills. I look at resumes every day that have none of that. Why are you applying for a marketing role? Why are you applying for an analytical role and you have no analytical skills or software skills? Where are your technical skills? Are you tech savvy? If you feel like in this day and age, I only know Microsoft Office, I would encourage you to get on Udemy. I would encourage you to get on LinkedIn Learning. I would encourage you to get on YouTube University and learn some more skills and tools so that you can maximize your experience and your impact in your next role. That is essential. You need to go find the information that you are looking for, okay? Don't anticipate a job training you on all these tools that they have in their job description. They're expecting you to have some competencies of that. So you want to do that. So if it's a tool, and I think about tools, I think about everything you've ever worked with, even if it was an internal tool, as long as not, as long as it's not something that you can't share, put it, right? Because it may be a tool that I am familiar with from working in a similar industry. And as a person that's looking at your resume, I may be familiar with it where I know, oh, well, if she or he knows how to use that as their internal tool, I know they can use this one over here. So don't discount it. A lot of my resume customers are like, oh, well, I didn't include it because I didn't think it was relevant because we only use that at this job or this bank or this company. Put it anyway. Put it anyway. And then I also will tell you that if you find that, I typically, there's something that if it was on a job description and if you had maybe a day or two to look on YouTube or to refresh your memory on it, you could use it and at least speak to it, add that too. Okay. Cause typically in some roles, obviously, it may, like if you had a heavy Excel role, they probably will even test you on or ask you questions within an interview to really assess your skill. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about you being dishonest. What I am saying that if you are familiar with the tool and you know that once you know you got an interview, you can look up the information and refresh your memory and be able to apply it to an example of something that you've done before. Put it on your resume. Don't discount any tools you've used, maybe outside of the workplace, right? So if you're on social media all day and you've ever used a scheduling tool, put that. If you really know YouTube because you do it from your side, like that's your hobby or something you do on the side or whatever, put that as well. When I think about things on the side, let me put a pin in this right here and talk about it. If you have any freelance consulting work, I know that in previous years, people kind of like were scared to say something they've done outside of their job. It is essential for you to include it. What's up, y'all? Thank you for joining. Right now, we're talking about resetting during a recession, how to find your dream job in a competitive market. Over 2 million people were laid off in 2022. Some people were laid off multiple times. Some people had offers that were rescinded. Some people were dealing with hiring freezes when they were in the final stages of interviews. So what that means for anyone looking for a job in 2023, you got to get it together. There's a lot of people looking for a lot of roles, and it's a lot of qualified people. And so this live today is to help you get prepared, right? And so how do you make sure that you set yourself up for success in a pool full of a lot of competitive people that are out of work because they were let go? It's not that they weren't happy in their role. It's not that they weren't performing exceptionally well. It was just what happened, right? It was a business decision made. And I want to make sure that you are prepared for what you need. So make sure that you tell a friend to tell a friend, share this live. Let somebody know you're on here now. If you like somebody that's like, I know you were just talking about getting another job or how you hate your current role. If you're unemployed or underemployed or you're miserable, you're trying to get out of the classroom, you're trying to transition careers, tell them to jump on this live right now. I do plan to record it so it can be shareable afterwards, but you want to get this live because I'm also going to be taking questions. So freelance work. It is important to include the freelance work when it is applicable to some of the things that you are looking to do next, or if the skills, responsibilities, and job function of what you're looking to do can be these are transferable skills to that. So an example would be if you are looking to go into, let's say a marketing role. Marketing's too easy. Let me think about. Let me stick with customer success manager role. And just say on this, you've done some consulting where you've helped some people set up websites or social media management or content creator. Those are all skills that could be applicable to a customer success manager role. So customer success managers typically, and the term is used and the job title is used interchangeably sometimes, but it's typically the other side of the sales role. So once a customer has been onboarded, they are then assigned a customer success manager to really manage the account, to nurture that relationship, to make sure the customer is happy. If you have done anything where you've been in front facing, working with customers, working with their audiences, you've been in a position where you've had to be front facing the customer. So you can use those skills. You can talk about how you have had to, like from a social media standpoint, you've had to engage with customers. You've had to drive engagement and visibility. You can talk about how you've had to measure analytics to make decisions. And to make sure that you understood the needs of the customer and kind of what their goals were in order to create content that applied. So all that still those are still skills that are very transferable into the role you may be looking for if it was a customer success manager role. So don't be afraid to put freelance and consulting work. And if you work with me, I can really help you pull what you have done before and how you can apply it into a new role. I'm super excited to say that I helped over 100 people last year, but about 25 transitioned to completely new careers. And so, and of those 25, about 5 of them were teachers that were looking to leave the classroom. And, you know, one thing about being a teacher is definitely something that you have to love. And so those that found like, listen, I'm not happy anymore. I'm ready to get out of this class, trying to do something different. I'm happy that I was able to assist them to transition into something new. I have helped I've helped lawyers, attorneys, I've helped pharmacists, I've helped C-suite executives, financial services, you name it. I can do it. I love resume writing. I've helped attorneys. I've helped people that are transitioning out of entrepreneurship and saying, listen, I might need to get me a job for a little bit. And I don't have no resume. I haven't had one for 10 years. I have helped someone that has been a homemaker for over 18 years, and she's raised her children. And we were able to use her volunteer work, the work she did with her church, some of the work she did assisting her husband as a wife would do, right? Oh, baby, that's work. Let's put it out. Let me pull that out of you. Let me show you how this was not just something you were doing. This was work. This is transferable skills that need to go on a resume. Okay. So listen, I am excited to help you all. So let's keep going. Welcome. If you just got on here, we're talking about resetting during a recession, how to land your dream job in a competitive market. Over 2 million people, at least over 2 million people lost their job last year in 2022. And so that means it's a lot of qualified and eager people ready to enter the workforce in 2023. But let me tell you something about that number. Just because 2 million people were laid off in 2022 does not mean that there are not jobs available. There are a lot of jobs available. Okay. There are still, talent acquisition and recruiters were hit very hard in those layoffs. A lot of the layoffs that occurred were huge teams in that space, but they are also being rehired by other companies. There are a lot of companies that are ramping up now for the roles that they're going to be posting in February and in March. And so I want to make sure you're prepared. And so if you haven't already, what's up, Preston? If you have not already made sure that your resume was right and ready and locked and loaded, I want to help you with that. So we talked about taking your address off of your resume. If you want to put a city and state, that's cool. If you feel like your name has been a challenge with people judging you based off of your name, put you as citizen, try that. It's all trial and error sometimes. And you should also have multiple versions of your resume. Make sure you have some quantitative data, right? So when you have the skills on your resume, and then when you start getting to the meat of the role and what you've been doing, quantitative data. I want to know, what impact did you have while you were there? I don't care that you also have good communication and interpersonal skills. I do not care about that. Please take that off. We know that. We will know actually when you email us back and forth, when we correspond through email, and when we talk to you on the Zoom, or if we talk to you in person for an interview. We know you have great communication skills. Great. Take that off. Use that space for something else. Please. Take it off. Use it for impact. Okay. Quantitative information. Give me some percentages. Okay. Please give me some percentages. Give me some, how did you help to reduce something, right? You took a number down in a positive direction. Tell me about that. Tell me about the number of people you've managed. Tell me about the number of teams you impacted. If you are in an implementation role, tell me about the number of users that you have touched by the system you've implemented. That's what I want to know. I do not care that you have good interpersonal skills. Okay, please. Okay, so moving forward. So then you think about, okay, impact, tools, skills, all that is great. And I go to that ain't nothing but the devil. They don't want y'all to get this information. Somebody don't want y'all to get this good job in 2023, and it's fine, because I will do this again and again if I have to. All right, we back. Okay. LinkedIn. Let's shift, right? So if you don't already have a LinkedIn page, get one today and follow me. Copy and paste what I have and make it applicable to your roles if you need to. I don't care. But you need to get a LinkedIn page immediately. I live on LinkedIn. As a recruiter, as a recruiting manager, as someone that's helping out numbers of recruiters all over this country, I live on LinkedIn. Okay? It is so important that you have a LinkedIn page, because as recruiters and hiring managers, we go to LinkedIn. I don't care how you decide to make your LinkedIn page look like. If you say, I don't really want to have the companies that I worked at listed, that's fine. Just describe them. Financial services company, global tech agency, marketing automation company. And then still put some of the quantitative information. Tell me the impact you made while you were there. Just give me a little bit, right? So, because sometimes we don't necessarily have resumes. So it was a number of people we met at Afrotech, and they weren't aggressively looking. They didn't really want to share the resume, didn't have it on them, whatever the reason, right? But I had their information. I connected with them. I was able to at least look at their LinkedIn page. And I'm like, oh, they would be perfect for this. Let me hit them up real quick. Let me tell them, hey, I don't know if you saw it, but we just posted this role. Are you interested in applying, right? So LinkedIn is essential in your job hunt. And so make sure you're using LinkedIn as you're searching for roles. And so this is where you need to make sure you have your pen and paper out. So these are some things they don't teach you at school. Are you ready? Okay, great. With LinkedIn, one of the first things that I do when I'm looking for roles is I don't necessarily go to the job side first. I go to the normal search bar where you can type in any other keywords, search for names, search for companies, any of that. And so I may type in, I'm going to keep using my same customer success manager example. I may type in customer success manager hiring, or I may say customer success hiring. Let's just say, I say customer success hiring Florida. What I'm looking for is someone to have made a post on LinkedIn recently that had those words in it. Typically, it may be someone that's saying, hey, I'm hiring for a customer success manager or customer success coordinator or whatever in Florida. Connect with me or reach out to me directly if you're interested, right? And so I'm looking for people that have posted about an open role, because what does that mean? That means I have a direct contact. I can apply for it. I can reach out to them and say, hey, I just applied for your customer success manager role that you posted about. Here's why I would be a great candidate. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Another approach, which I usually like to go, is always end in a question so they feel obligated to respond. And I may say, hey, I saw your post about the customer success manager role. I'm super qualified because I've worked with blah, 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 blah. Is the role still open? Question mark, period. And I shut up. I let them respond and tell me if it's still interested in, oh, you would be great for it. I'd love to talk to you more about it, right? I will also be very specific when I'm reaching out to people. Highly recommend that you reach out to recruiters, because as a recruiter, we need qualified candidates, because I'm looking for you. So it's great if you actually reach out to a recruiter. Now, if you find someone else that you like, I haven't really found a recruiter, or the company's so big, I don't know which recruiter it could be, but I did find someone in that department and I think I want to reach out to them. You take the same approach. You just say, hey, I saw this role on your team. I'd love to know if it's still open. Can you connect me to the recruiter? But always be very specific, please. Okay, please. You cannot reach out to somebody and say, I'm trying to apply for y'all company. What roles y'all got open? Or are y'all hiring? Or, hey, I'll apply for the marketing director role. Which one? It's great, actually, if you include the link, the job number, resend them the post that they post and say, hey, just saw your post. Super excited about this role. I think I'd be perfect for it. Here's why. Here's a link to my resume. Is it still available? So lead with finding the recruiters. But then I'm going to tell you how you could do that, right? So on LinkedIn, again, the same search bar. We haven't even got to the actual job site. You can do all this from the search bar, and you can filter. So you can type in, just say if the company is, just make up a company. Let's go with, I'll just use my company name, JD Global Strategies, right? I'm trying to find a recruiter. I may be trying to find a recruiter. I want to find a recruiter that said JD Global Strategies. Type in JD Global Strategies in the search bar, and then you can actually select people. And when you click people, when you click the company name, you can then go, once you come up with the company's LinkedIn page, then you can go under people and see all the people that have said to LinkedIn, I work here. Then you can filter it by region. Then you can filter it even by school. You can get that granular and to the details of what you're looking for, right? And so highly recommend doing that when you're trying to find out who you want to or need to reach out to for the roles in which you're trying to apply for. So make sure if you're going to reach out to someone on LinkedIn, you are very specific. You are keep it very concise, and let them know why you're reaching out to them, why you're a good candidate, why they should care, and have your resume ready. Okay. When we go to the job side of LinkedIn works just like any other job board. One of the things I would say, because I have been, I've used it to apply for jobs, right? But I've also been on the other end of it, of building the LinkedIn pages for companies and setting up the accounts. Some companies do not have the premium level, so they are just collecting resumes. They may be collecting resumes just on LinkedIn, or they may have it redirecting to their website. Now, for data purposes, most companies will prefer that even if they click it from LinkedIn, it will redirect you to their website because they really want to drive all the traffic to their website. But what will happen if it's strictly on LinkedIn, they may not look at the LinkedIn only resumes until later. If they have a website that's connected to their applicant tracking system, they are going to be looking at those first because that's what's right in front of them, right? As a recruiter, I'm going to my applicant tracking system every day first. I'm trying to see who's applied overnight. Like, that's what I'm doing first. And if it's not communicating or succinct and integrated with LinkedIn, I may see that later. Like, I've been in a role before where I had to go to different places to check different pools of resumes. From a recruiter standpoint, it is something that we do, but it's an extra step. What's up, Desi? So, like, literally, I'm trying to make sure y'all know, like, there's a lot of people that are looking for jobs in 2023, but that don't mean you can't land your dream job. Like, it's very possible for you. So right now we're talking about resetting during a recession, how to find your dream job in a competitive market. Over 2 million people were laid off in 2022. So that means it is a pool of qualified and dope candidates, right? But you're one of them. And I'm going to make sure that you're good on that, right? So when I say go to LinkedIn, use that search bar. Think of it like Google. And use it to find people that have posted about very specific roles. And then also use it to find the companies that you're interested in working for. And finding the people that work there that you need to get connected to and reach out to. So when we think about even the companies you want to be connected with, right? So I am not speaking to people that are applying for roles out of like pure, like, I don't care what it is I get, I want anything. That I'm not speaking to you today. This is not for you. I'm speaking for people that are trying to find a role where they can stick and stay for however long they decide they want to be there, right? I am speaking to people that are really like, listen, I've tried everything else, so clearly what I'm doing is not working. So Jada, I'm all ears. I'm trying to hear what you're saying, right? So realistically, listen, I want you to think about the companies that you want to really work for and actually do some research on those companies. Be very clear on what, especially now. Check news articles. See what information has happened in the news about them. Because a lot of information you can find out about the state in which they are as far as HR, as far as recruiting, if they are going to be looking for new candidates of things, the news is going to tell you. If they had a blow up with their C-suites within the last couple of weeks, probably not. Or if you're in the process right now, you should be asking more questions to your recruiter, things like that. But then also on the positive, you want to know, like, what matters to a company. You want to be able to ask those questions later in an interview, which we'll get to, right? And so whenever I'm very strategic in my search, I don't apply for anything. This is my thing. I say to myself, I'm not applying for anything that I wouldn't want if they call me tomorrow. If you call me tomorrow, and if I would be hesitant on even considering it, I'm not applying for it. I'm not wasting my time. Because you all know that it is a job to find a job, right? To look for a job. And so why waste your time just with doing anything, right? So you want to be very specific. For someone that may have worked in a certain industry and you're transitioning out of it, one thing I always tell you is consider the tools that you used at that company. Maybe you didn't like the company and maybe you're not that gung-ho on the industry, but if you think about some of the tools that you use, you may be like, ooh, maybe I could work for that company because I'm already you're already an end user. You already know what works well. So when I think about teachers transitioning out of a classroom, I always say go to the education technologies that you've been using in the classroom. Or if you've been doing any remote learning, what are those tools that you've been using? What are those companies? Go to those companies' websites. See what roles they have available. And then let's make sure that your resume speaks to the skills that you have in that regard. So those are the things that you need to do from a resume perspective, from a LinkedIn perspective. And if anybody has questions, please ask your questions. I am a recruiting resume writer for over 15 years. I absolutely love and adore resume writing. I love recruiting. It is what I do. I can do in my sleep, right? I love recruiting. I love resume writing, but I also know the importance of having multiple streams of income, which we'll get to. So like I said, over 2 million people have lost a job. Many of you on here were part of those layoffs. Unfortunately, some of you were laid off multiple times in the same year. A lot of you also may be unemployed or underemployed, and you like, I'm sick of what I'm doing. I need to transition to something else. 2023, new year, new me, new job. I'm ready for it. Jada, what I need to do. One of the things you should do is probably get on my calendar before it's booked. My calendar stay booked. Okay. That ain't no humble flex. That's just what it is. My calendar stay booked. And so I would love to work with you, but I can't work with everybody. But what I can do is work with you now. So if you're on this live, make sure that you get on my calendar. Get on my calendar and let's work together. Be happy to work with you. I connected my Calendly link there. Shout out to Black owned Calendly. Happy to use this tool. They actually about to renew and take some money out of my account tomorrow. But get on my calendar. Thank you. Come on, Jessica. Yes, book now, baby. Book now. Okay. I love this though. And so you want somebody that's going to work with you beyond just the resume writing, right? So anybody that works with me knows it could be months later. It could be years later. I'm not going to forget the type of roles you told me about. And I'll probably send you a link randomly in the middle of them. Oh yeah, this is a job you may be interested in. I don't know. Listen, keep your options open because my resume stay ready. And I got multiple versions of it. So let's talk about that, right? Jada, I don't know what I want to do. I want to be in sales. I want to be in marketing. I like media too. Okay, so that's great. Do you have experience that I can pull from to make these versions of the resume? You do? Okay, great. We can do that, right? So I have multiple versions, meaning I've done a lot. Okay, so but it is not realistic for me to put everything on one piece of paper or however many pages I got. So I have one that's very specific to recruiting and HR. I have one that speaks to some of the same roles, but it just speaks to the things I did because, they have you doing a million things at these jobs. Okay. So one that speaks to HR recruiting, one that speaks to my media relations, communications type stuff. And then I have one I feel like that's more general where I don't really pull too much from any lane that can be more of a business operations focus. Okay. So multiple versions is fine. But I gotta have something anybody that does your resume gotta have something to pull from. And so being able to give people what they need to help you is important. So if you know, hey, listen, I need another resume immediately. Okay. So before you work with somebody, go ahead and start thinking, what were the quantitative things? What impact, what value did I add when I was working here? Did I help to save the company money, by maybe changing a process? Did I help save us time? Did I help develop standard operating procedures that shifted the number of workers required? Like there are so many things that I can pull from whatever it is that you have. Hey, Maxine. So there's like a lot of things I can pull from your experience, but you have to give me something to work with, right? So super important. If you're just joining us, over 2 million people lost their job in 2022. I want to set you up for success. Make sure you understand from a resume perspective to a LinkedIn perspective. And then let's talk about the interview. And then I want to get any questions you all have, right? Okay, so interviewing. When you are interviewing, once you know you have your interview, the first thing you need to do is make sure the recruiter has given you the names of the interviewers. If they don't openly give them to you, you ask for it. If they don't give it to you, you thank them and move on. Okay? Because that's not where you want to be. But once you have the names, do your research. It's fine if you look them up on LinkedIn. You should know that if you look at someone's LinkedIn page, it notifies them that you've looked at their page. Just as a tip, if you didn't know. It's fine though. It's expected. Like I would expect someone to look my LinkedIn page up if they're going to be interviewing with me soon. And then if you want to do some Google searches or whatever to find some relevant, relatable information content that you can share with them and say, oh yeah, I see you went to the University of Memphis, or, oh my God, you lived in Dallas too. I lived there too. Whatever it is, you want to pull some little anecdotal things that are not so serious and necessarily job related. But if they are job related, that's great too, right? But you want to build rapport. So just remember, you are going to be interviewed, but you are also interviewing the company and those that are part of the interview committee. So it's important that you have questions for them, right? Make sure that you know exactly, Mariah. Shout out to Mariah. Look, Congratulations on your new job recently too, okay? Yes. Okay, you better close 22, right? So listen, look them up, okay? Get all the information. Find out who they are, where did they go to school, maybe what the jobs they did before, so you have some relevant questions that you can be asking them during the interview. So if I know who I'm interviewing, let's just use Mariah, for example. I said, I look at Mariah and I'm like, oh, okay, so I see you've done this before. So tell me like how you even got to this company, because I think it's important to know other people's story. What made you come to this company to get into a position and a role where you're interviewing me? And then you may want to ask then, if you see that they worked somewhere before that you have some information on or is relatable to the job, you can ask them questions about maybe the differences and what attracted them to come over. I also think some of the questions you're going to be asking the interviewer, once you get to the interview, one of the things you want to always ask, if you ask no other question, and you should have a list, but if you ask no other questions before every interview, it should be, so what are the next, if they don't answer it, what are the next steps? So that you walk away knowing that there is something that could happen within a certain time frame, and we all know that could change, but you want them to at least giving you what you should be anticipating next, right? You should definitely look up. You should definitely get familiar with asking them, how is success going to be measured in this role? Very important question to ask so that you know. And if it is a manager or above level role, you make sure you find out what are the expectations in the first 30, 60, 90 days. Realistically, any role, but definitely if you're looking for a manager and above role, find out what their expectations are of you when you come in the door. 30, 60, 90. If it's a senior management role, what's up, Raquel? Make sure that you also ask them what their vision is, right? If you're going to be working directly with senior leadership, you find out what is their vision for the department, right? Or the team that they're leading. Ask those questions. Ask, and these are off the dome, y'all, but I do this every day. Ask them definitely ask about DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. Please drill these people about that. Make sure that it's not performative, for real. And then when you get to the offer stage, you make sure that you've talked to somebody that look like you. It could be informal or whatever, but it's like, hey, I'd love to talk to somebody from your Black Employee Resource Group or your Hispanic Resource Groups or your family group or your mom's group, whatever they tell you they have. You ask to talk to somebody from one of those groups if they have not already put that person in front of you, period. We want to see how committed these companies are to the work in which they say that they're doing. Because there are some companies that may not put it in front of you of like DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, but they're doing a lot of the work, and which is why they have low attrition, which is turnover rates, which means people are sticking and staying there because they're happy. People feel like they can their voice is heard. They feel like they can be themselves in the workplace. So don't believe the hype of these workplace awards, or just because people are putting in the forefront and have commercials and marketing collateral to say it. You get in front of people and ask them real questions about it. What have they done? Find out how they treat their mothers. Find out how they treat their mamas. Find out, what type of benefits they have. I can get real deep with this. We're gonna probably have to do another. One to get deep into this. But that's a good one. What are the characteristics that someone in the position should have to be successful? That's a great question to ask Mariah. And on the flip side of that is, ask them at the end of it. This is one that usually helps me seal the deal. Is what reservations would you have for me in the role? You let them know, I know I ain't perfect, but I want to hear why you think I'm not perfect, so I can tell you why I am kind of perfect. So you ask them that, and then they may tell you, they may be honest about, typically some of the candidates we've seen have had like maybe a lot more experience in this area, blah, blah, blah. That's when you close the deal, baby. That's when you say, all right, I hear what you said. I now know your reservations, but let me tell you why it shouldn't be. Because actually, while they may have more experience here, this is what I do have. So I don't ever, I ain't gonna say ever, that would be lying. I tend to stay away from ever having to say I have not done something. If you ask me a question like, so tell me about a time you've used pivot tables. Let's just go with Excel since I'm thinking about our niche, right? I may say, you know what? So here's some of the tools we've actually used to build these pivot tables. Are you familiar with a tool called Monday? Because I'm going to distract you and call you out on something you might not be familiar with. With Monday, I've been able to build multiple different charts, data, analytics, whatever, right? Okay. I'm going to not say no, though. I'm going to tell you what I have done. Exactly. Hype yourself up immediately. Correct. I'm going to tell you what I have done, why this should not even be a reservation for you, and I'm going to seal the deal. The interview is your time to shine. I say it all the time. If you give me a mic, I will perform. That is your time to shine. That is when you sell yourself as to why you are the strongest candidate for the job, right? Even in your own doubts. That's the thing. Even in your own doubts. It's fine. So from a resume to a LinkedIn to then being ready for the interview, you make sure that you're in this. We ain't even got to no offer stage. Child, we got to do a whole nother live for that. I'm just trying to get y'all in the door right now. Okay. Work with me, hire me. I got you on the interview. I'm going to take you through the interview stage. Even when you in the job, if we need to talk about from a talent management perspective and how you can talk about in your promotion. Once you're a client, you always a client with me. I'm always accessible to you. And so, but getting in the door is so important. Sometimes we kill the deal. I can get you the best resume, but sometimes y'all kill the deal in the interview. Sometimes your nervousness gets to you. Sometimes you're not prepared for the interviews. And they know it. They're able to see that you're not prepared for the interview. What's up, Amber? So you want to make sure that you're prepared. So make sure you don't be afraid to have a list of your interview questions. And when they say, oh, do you have any questions? Actually, I do. Thank you. So the first question, so they didn't know there's multiples. The first question, please don't forget to ask them about DEI. Please don't forget to ask them about how success is measured in a role. Ask what they think, a successful candidate looks like in the role. Ask why they are even at the company, why they will stay at the company. Ask what the vision is for the company in the next year or so. Ask them about what's been going on with this current recession, with layoffs, hiring freezes. Especially if you're interviewing for a job in the next 30 to 60 days, I say 30 to 90 days. Ask them, have they done any layoffs or hiring freezes? If you don't already know, even if you know, ask them anyway. Make sure they ain't lying. Ask them and find out what have they been doing with with the state of the economy. I love to know more about what's been going on with this company. Have there been any hiring freezes? Have there been any offer rescinds? That's the other one. Okay. I'm not trying to trigger nobody on here, but there have been offer rescinds, meaning you didn't got the job, accepted it and signed it. And then they're like, oh, well, what's up, Matt? What's up, Jessica? Oh, well, unfortunately, due to the current climate, the economy, we're going to have to rescind it. Make sure you're prepared. Okay. So ask them these questions about how they've been handling their candidates. Because for me, like, the candidate experience is top tier. Like, I push leaders to make sure that candidate experience is top tier, because how you treat me in a process. Oh, that's why I said, if they won't tell you the names of who you interviewing with, you bid them adieu. Period. If they won't tell you who you're interviewing with, next. You need to make sure you know who you're interviewing with, get all the information about the interviewers, learn as much as you can about the company. Oh, another good question. Again, this is off the dome, y'all, but I work best this way. Ask them based off whatever news you see. So like if it was something recently about a company invested a certain amount of money into the company you're applying for. You ask them, okay, well, so saw the recent news about ABCD. So how will this role be impacted by this recent change? That'll show that you are paying attention to what's going on in the company, that you are just genuinely interested, right? So that'll show that you're doing your research. That'll show your genuine interest. So strongly encourage you to ask that. But again, make sure you don't walk away still confused of like, the recruiter may not know this, y'all. So keep that in mind. Some of the things the recruiter, it may just be a screening. So be mindful of that. You may be able to get the meat of your questions answered when you're talking to like a hiring manager or other people on the interview committee. And so you want to be mindful of that. They may not be able to answer like what's a day-to-day like, or what you should anticipate on the day-to-day and things like that. They may not be able to answer that, but ask anyway. I say ask everybody the same questions and see what the answers are and compare them. And if you are interviewing, if you're interviewing on Zoom or any other like remote type of tool, have your resume on one side of the screen, minimize the screen for the camera audit, minimize that, have it in the middle. Have your resume on one side, have the job description on the other side, because you would have already combed through the job description. And with the job description, you want to make sure that you have a example And you can, and since it's going to be in front of you, if this is a remote interview, you're going to have like a note. You could, or spell it all the way out. It could be sentences. But I mean, obviously, if you're trying to read it on the fly, a couple words or a sentence or something that will trigger your memory as to what example you give when they speak to those things. So comb through a job description. As a person that writes the job descriptions, what I put on here is what I'm looking for. It's not fluff. Okay. I'm actually looking for these things. And so I love to hear more about your experience as it applies to the things in my job description. And so look through the job description, have an example of like, yep, if you like, oh, I could do that. I know this job is perfect for me. Prove it. Tell me how perfect it is. Bullet point by bullet point. I want to hear about it in some capacity of our conversation, right? You would have gone through it and told me why you're so perfect for it. And with the information of going through a job description for your own notes, right, of having an example, the best thing you could do in an interview is volunteer the information versus having someone have to tell you. So if I know, let me give you an example from maybe like my own self. So if I know, like in my current role, when I first got into my current role, marketing automation company, a tool I already use, right? Klaviyo. I was already using it. And so as a customer, so I'm telling them, when I went into the interview, I was like, oh, I love the tool. I've been using it for some of my customers, and for myself, for my own business, my own e-commerce business. And I started telling them how I used it, but I'm looking at the job description so I know in my job function why it even mattered, right? So me being a customer is completely outside of the realm of this job, but I'm doing events, I'm doing programs, I'm doing early career recruiting, I'm doing all these different things. So I'm speaking to the fact of messaging, communications, the things that are needed in order to communicate with candidates, in order to push out invites for events, in order to follow up with people. I'm speaking to the way in which I've used the tool in order to how we can use that over into the job in which I was applying for. And so things like that. So being able to just know very confidently of like, yeah, I can do all these things. And so it's almost more of you have to say to yourself, well, prove it. How sure? Because a lot of times when you say to yourself, oh, I can do all of these things, sometimes it's not shown on your resume, right? Which is problem number one. But even once it's shown on your resume, the way in which you would have typically articulated or the way it looks in writing is not the same, especially in conversation. And so you may, it will be easier for you to voluntarily say versus a recruiter or hiring manager to have to go through and ask you individual questions. The best interviews are obviously the ones where people are engaging. It's relatable. It seems conversational, but don't get too comfortable though, is a tip. I know sometimes I get comfortable because people start kikiing and laughing with you. It's still an interview. We actually start interviewing you from the moment we reach out to you to schedule the interview. That's when it starts. So keep that in mind. So any questions? Any questions? Sorry, Arnisha, didn't mean to trigger you, babe. Yeah, Arnisha had 3 offers rescinded. So if y'all thought I was making it up, it has happened. And it will continue happening as long as companies haven't figured out what they're doing yet, unfortunately. So, it's just a part of the game. And so if you're just joining us now, make sure I just want to recap for everybody that's joining us now. Over 2 million people were laid off last year in 2022. And as harsh and as sad as that sounds, we got to keep it moving. And so in 2023, the problem with that for some of us is that now you're competing against some really highly qualified talent. And so those companies that are still hiring, and there's a lot of them, so don't be alarmed. There's a lot of companies that are still actively hiring, a lot, global companies. They have locations everywhere, and some of them are still remote. You just need to make sure that you are prepared to be presented as the best and most qualified person when they see you. And how do they see you? They see you from your resume and they see you from your LinkedIn page. We live on LinkedIn, okay? And so I shared earlier about some of the things you can change on your resume. I also shared earlier about some of the really important things that you can do on LinkedIn. But one of the beautiful parts about LinkedIn is the way that you can engage with people. And you can do that before you're really ready for a role too. I would be remiss if I didn't say that. You don't need to just be reaching out to people just because you need something. Like I tell y'all, don't reach out to me just because you need something. Say hello any other time, please. So you can do the same thing on LinkedIn. Reach out and say, hey, saw you work at this company. It's a company I've been looking at for a while. I'm not actively looking right now, but just wanted to connect with you. Love what you're doing. Whatever. Keep it light, keep it fun. LinkedIn is a professional networking tool. However, some of the best networking has happened there from a business standpoint. A lot of people have landed some of their dream jobs on LinkedIn. I have found multiple jobs on LinkedIn, but I've also found about 90% of the candidates I've hired from LinkedIn or social media. So know that it is real and it works. And a lot of times I am just looking at people because I have a LinkedIn recruiter account. So I'm maybe looking at people before I'm ready to fill a role, right? I'm looking to see who's qualified in general for a role I may have in the future, or a role that I don't know is going to exist in the future. But in the event that it becomes available, this will be a really strong candidate. And I put them in a project or a file that's on the LinkedIn recruiter side. So we have the ability to save candidates for whenever, right? For us to look at and consider later. So know that that's happening. And if you know right now that you're aggressively looking, you're ready to get started, make sure that you schedule some time with me now. My calendar is filling up for January. It goes fast. I'm typically, whatever you see there is what it is. But I'm ready to work with you. I was able to help over 100 people last year with new resumes. 25 of them transitioning to new careers. Of those 25, 5 were teachers transitioning out of the classroom. And we know how hard it's been for teachers, so I'm exceptionally proud of them. I want to help you. I want to help your friends. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend, right? You need to get your resume together, just like you need to get your life together, just like you need to get your shift in order, all the things, y'all, shameless plug. Get it all together, honey. It's the beginning of the year. The time is now. It's time to reset during this recession. It's looming, they say, but be ready. Don't wait for it. Is your resume going to be ready? Be ready. Listen, your resume needs to be ready, and you can have multiple versions of it. I do a million things, so if anybody knows, I know about having multiple versions of my resume. I got one for HR, recruiting. I got one for marketing, comms. I got one for just general operations, business. And sometimes you're like, do I want to put my freelance work on there? If it's relevant, yes. But usually it is relevant. More times than not, it's relevant, right? But sometimes it'll just show your range and show that you have more to offer than just this one job you've worked. Sometimes I may need that just to show that you've been working for the last 12 years, even if it was in a freelance capacity. I've helped a mother who has not worked in 18 years because she's been a stay-at-home wife and mom. So she has been working, let's be clear. She just hasn't been working in a traditional sense for someone else. I was able to use her volunteer work she's done at her church, the work she's done to support her husband as a entertainer. I've been able to pull all of that to create actual job roles and responsibilities for her. Now she has a working resume. I can help you too. You can get on my calendar link. It's pinned here. You all can go to my website. It's also in the bio, in my link. Link is in my bio. But make sure you all be ready. At this point, we all know that there's a chance that your resume needs to be ready if you're still looking for a job. And you all know the way I feel about jobs and business. You can do both. You definitely need to, if you're like, I'm not an entrepreneur, Jada, it's not for me. You need to find another stream. I don't care if it's investing, real estate. Shout out to Matt. Listen, whatever you need to do, you need to have another stream as well. You need to have something that's yours. You need to have something where you can say, I may be doing it part-time right now, but if the opportunity presented itself and I needed to do it full-time, I could do it. You got to have multiple streams of income. You have to. Period. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Period. You have to, y'all. I've been saying this for a long time, man. I'm going to keep saying it, though, because it's in me, but don't say to nobody to tell y'all. For real. For real. So, listen. Resume, LinkedIn, interview. You are interviewing the interviewer. Do not forget that. And then also, make sure you have something else going for you. Have something else. We all have skills that we need to monetize. Plenty of skills that you need to monetize. I can help you do that too. Again, click the link. We need to do a strategy session, a think tank session, so I can pull out of you what's already in you. It's already in you. The magic's already within. You already got it. Sometimes you just don't know it. So that's what I do really well. I'm an idea factory. So I can help pull that out of you. So while you got a job, or while you trying to find your next job, while you still trying to figure it out, you I don't know, I'm not sure. That's fine, baby. I ain't never gonna tell you to leave no job. I ain't left mine, and I ain't, period. Love it, because I love it. Because I love it. But if the opportunity presented itself for me to leave it, I could, and I will, and I'm gonna be good. Because guess what? Shut up, keep grinding. All right, y'all. I be real mindful of time. I do like they do in corporate and tech, baby. I'm going to give you back 2 minutes. I'm going to give you all some time back. But this has been good. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save it, and it's going to post immediately. And so for the people that were not here, you make sure you share that with them. This has been dope. This has been amazing. Get on my calendar. Shut up, keep grinding, baby. You are the magic. And don't let them tell you different. Later.